All you need to take kids outdoors is the ability to open the door and have an incredible mindset of curiosity, wonder, and inquiry. You
That's
do not need to
beautiful.
be an expert.
So you don't need to be an expert. I suppose the other misconception would be it's harder to sort of have that control or the management piece when you're outside. So do you have any words of wisdom there?
Absolutely. I get that question a lot.
Welcome to Rainbow Skies for Teachers, the go-to show dedicated to teachers who want to make a big difference in education. Whether you're in your first few years or well into your teaching career, we are here to inspire, support, and empower you with bite-sized tips, simple strategies, and the motivation to lead an education revolution, one classroom at a time.
We're Ashley and Alicia from Rainbow Sky Creations, two Aussie teachers who love all things teaching and learning. We are here to help you thrive as you work toward making an impact in your students' lives while loving your life as a teacher.
We are here to help you bring joy, simplicity, and creativity into your classroom on the daily, because
there are rainbows ahead, my friend, and together we're unstoppable.
Let's get into today's episode.
Rainbow Sky Creations acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that we record this podcast on, the Dharawal and Whadjuk Noongar people. We pay our respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures.
Hello. Thank you so much for choosing to listen to Rainbow Skies for Teacher, you legend. I mean, teachers that choose to listen to podcasts to make their practice better, I don't think there's any other way to describe them but being legendary. So go you. Today's episode is one that is not sort of our normal topic of conversation, but I think you're going to really love it. Now, I'm going to digress on a story for a minute. Yesterday, I met a lovely young girl named Brianna at a local cafe, and she wanted to study to be a teacher. And she said, I'd love to ask you a couple of questions about teaching just to find out if it's the right thing for me. So I met her. She ordered a cappuccino. I ordered a piccolo, and we got to chatting. And she was much, much younger than me, you guys. You know, I just had my 40th birthday late last year. And, you know, I'm feeling good, but I am feeling 40. And she said to me, oh, you don't look 40, which I thought was a lovely compliment. And I was like, oh, yes, besides these lines on my eyes. And she turned around and she said, I think it's so amazing that in your life you've smiled so much that it's actually left lines on your face. Like, how awesome is that? And I never really thought of it like that before. I've never really thought of it from that perspective. And I think, number one, today's episode is going to be something like you haven't really thought of this from this perspective before. It's a change of perspective. But not only that, I smiled so much in this episode. I really had a connection with Victoria, our guest. She just is so lovely in how she presents her opinion, her ideas, and the research that she's done over the years. We're talking about outdoor classrooms and how outdoor learning can be so positive for students. Even if this is a thing that you're thinking, I'm not into this, listen to this episode and just listen to the benefits that Victoria explains to us, because there is so much great stuff in this episode and so many wonderful benefits, not only for the students, but actually for you as the teacher too. So let's get into it, introducing the lovely Victoria. Victoria, tell us about the power of outdoor learning.
Oh, thank you so much first for having me. I'm thrilled to be here. I would love to talk about the power of outdoor learning and outdoor classrooms. There's a couple different things, is that a lot of research is showing that the more time that children and also adults spend outdoors, it completely regulates their systems. In terms of learning outdoors, it's enhancing engagement, it's improving children's health and well-being, it's developing social skills with children outdoors, and just reconnecting children with nature. And by doing that, there's so many different opportunities for hands-on learning. And also with children working in groups outside, there's a lot more space. So there's time and space for lots of creativity and problem solving. So there's so much in terms of the power of outdoor learning.
Yes, the well-being piece to me is obvious, because as adults, we often say for our own well-being, it's really great to connect to nature, put your bare feet on the grass, go outside, go for a walk, be in nature. So that bit was obvious, but when you said it really helps with regulation, I was like, oh, wow, yes, I can see why, but I've never thought of that side of it before.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what's the big push now is to try to get children off of the screens and outside from their indoor classrooms to go outdoors, because with outdoor learning and having these outdoor classrooms enables us to create experiential learning experiences. It actually enhances their neuroplasticity and the brain development. But it's not only good for children, it's also good for adults. So all the educators that are taking the children out are feeling re-energized. And what I'm hearing, educators that I've been talking to, even educators that have been teaching for years and years, they feel a renewal when they are teaching outside, because they too are also benefiting from all of the reconnection of nature and feeling the side effects.
Yeah. Wow. Yes. I hadn't really thought of the perspective of the adults either. However, I do know when I've taken my own students outside to do some sort of learning activity, it feels good. And we're lucky because we're in Australia and I'm in Sydney. So it's a very good weather most of the year, except for when it's raining. So we're very lucky that we're able to get outdoors. Are these teachers that you're talking about, they're in normal classrooms, what we would see as a traditional classroom, and then they're taking some lessons outdoors, or they are teaching all day outdoors?
It's a whole spectrum. So I think
Yeah.
that you have some programs that are just focused on taking the certain lessons outdoors. There are other programs that are outside the entire day and have full-fledged outdoor classrooms. So again, there is a spectrum, and the way I look at it is no matter how short or length of time that you are out there, is to just open the door and get out there in the first place. So there is a spectrum. There's not sort of one right or wrong way of doing it. It's just trying to spend more and more time outdoors and finding when once you get out there, how can you incorporate and create an outdoor classroom to connect with the curriculum that you are teaching. So it doesn't feel like sort of, oh, it's a recess, or oh, we're just coming out for, we're doing whatever we're doing inside, we're doing outside. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's really fun to sort of press a little bit further and to see how can we be teaching and using the environment as a teaching tool for whatever curriculum we are teaching at the moment.
Yeah, let's dive into that a little bit more. And let's talk about how we can align outdoor learning with the demands of the curriculum, especially in areas like literacy or numeracy, which traditionally we're thinking like in a classroom, really traditional setting.
I was just talking to a teacher that went through our certificate program, and she says that they are outside all day, and it's a kindergarten class, so that they have to do all the preparing for first grade. And they did it all through loose parts, counting acorns, and creating literacy and nature journals. There's so much that you can do in your outdoor environment to make it literacy rich and math rich. There's a wonderful author, Juliet Robertson. I don't know if you've heard of her. She's written a wonderful book called Messy Maths. And it's just absolutely incredible and really showcases how we can use our outdoor environment using lots of loose parts, nature's loose parts, as ways to do math. And also in terms of literacy, making story walks, bringing books outdoors. When I have children, I run a parent-child program, and when children arrive, they have their names on rocks. And so they have, I'm here, and they have to move their rock to, it's welcome, and then I am here. But seeing their name, learning the letters and the names. We also have a fishing bridge there with magnets, with sticks, and those are the fishing rods, and they're fishing for letters. And these are all young learners, but finding games and incorporating that into different types of teaching gardens is the framework that I use.
Yes, it's interesting that you say that because I think those early learners, I don't know if it's the same in the US, but here in Australia, the preschools before kids go to school, they're really good at doing outdoor learning. We have different preschools that do bush kindy, or
Yeah.
my kids, we live by the beach. So we did beach kindy for a while when it was summertime, and the kids would go down to the beach and do all these learning activities, which is really great. But I think it's really fantastic bringing that into the school setting because it's really coinciding with learning through play, which we know is really important for kids.
Absolutely. What's unfortunate is as children get older, they're spending less and less time outdoors. There's just an abundance of programs for our young learners, but I think it's just as important to continue that learning for even as children grow and develop. And there's so much in terms of science, technology, art, reading, math, all of that. The outdoor classroom makes it come alive. It makes it a real world experience.
Yes. And it also connects with those learners that really thrive in the outdoors too. And we're often talking about differentiation and catering for our different learners. And this is one way that you can do it. I'm not an expert in this area at all, which is why I'm so excited to talk to you today. But one of the blog posts that we have that does super well, it just gets loads of traffic all year long, is different maths lessons you can do outside with chalk. And teachers just love it. We've given all sorts of different ideas from those early years all the way up as the kids get older because they can really benefit too. I can see how they could benefit. I've got a child in year 4 and I'm sure he would love to get outside more to do learning, not just play.
Yeah. And I think what it's all about creating invitations for learning. And one of the ways that I do it is, and you can do it in any landscape, but looking at 4 different types of teaching gardens. And so that would be gardens that feed. So imagine growing food and all the different math and literacy things that you can acquire while you are growing food. So that's gardens that feed, gardens that as outdoor learning stations, and those are the mud kitchens and the water walls and the fishing bridges. I have a maker space. So even the maker space, that's all engineering. And even in the mud kitchen, that's all math, science, mixing things. And so then we have gardens that attract wildlife. And so what does it take? What types of native plants can attract butterflies and bees or bugs? And how does that help our environment? And then the final one is gardens as art and beauty. So it's not only children creating art outdoors, it's also creating a space with flowers and whatnot to create art and beauty. And what does that mean? And what I love to do in my summer program is to actually conclude with an art show. Even that, there's so many different educational components to even putting on the art show and having kids feel really proud, but a lot of the art being nature inspired art.
Oh my gosh, Victoria, I love this. I want to send my 3 kids over so they can come and learn from you. It sounds fantastic. And I'm sure teachers that are listening, we have teachers that listen all over the world. And I'm sure they're thinking, yes, this sounds amazing. And that sounds like a holistic program, which is wonderful. But you can take bits and pieces of this and bits
Yes.
and pieces of what we're saying today to still get those key benefits.
Yes. And that there's nothing that I dislike more is when you go to a center or a program and it's this fancy, very expensive outdoor classroom that was made. And what I like to promote is that a mud kitchen can be old pots and pans. So all of the things that we're talking about can be a kind of a do-it-yourself type of thing. It's on the concept of when you give a child a gift, they would much prefer play with the box than actually what's in the box. So
Yes.
it's that type of thing. It's creating these teaching gardens, creating these invitations for learning, having something a little bit new each time the kids come. It doesn't all have to be created at once. And also to use the child as the leader. Like, where are they spending the most time in their outdoor space? Where are the hideaways? And to watch what they're doing, and they will signal to you, okay, they need to have a gallon jug so they can have water to add to their mud. They need to have X, Y, and Z. It goes really following the children, and they can tell us as educators what they need.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit more about how outdoor classrooms can support child development in a way that, say, our traditional classroom, the 4 walls, might not.
So many different ways. And as I was saying earlier, it's being outdoors, our bodies just physically change. So when children are sitting at desks and doing a worksheet, imagine just what's happening to their body. They're sitting and they're stagnant. And so their mind is not alive. Once you open the door, the senses just come alive. So that all of a sudden you can feel the wind. And again, this can go from infants and toddlers all the way up. You can feel the wind, you can hear the birds singing, and all of a sudden it's this very tactile learning experience just by being outside. So then imagine you have a lesson versus an outdoor lesson versus an indoor lesson. Once you're outside, your senses are just alert. It's almost like after a rainstorm, you can smell everything better.
Yes.
And it's like that for learning. When you're outside, some teachers say, oh, well, it's so distracting. I'm so worried about the behavior management. And so what happens there is then thinking about they're going to remember it more because they're outdoors, because there might be a bird that's chirping. They'll have that memory of whatever was happening in the environment during that time is going to trigger their memory more than if they're sitting at a desk, looking at a white piece of paper and doing a worksheet. So I'll ask you, which one would you prefer? Which environment would you prefer to learn in?
Yeah, I currently work from home and I'm always changing my environment according to what I need. So I think that's really interesting. I've got this beautiful studio where I can open the doors right up and it's an indoor outdoor room. And so
Mm.
sometimes I do that, but sometimes I sit outside in my beautiful garden and work there. So it's really interesting that you say that because naturally we choose to do things like that ourselves.
And I don't think children have that option because children are, look, you got to stand in a line and you have to you have to stand at your desk and you have to be quiet. And so when kids are outdoors, they can move, they can stretch, they can be themselves. And when they are more in themselves, just in their own bodies, and they have a little bit more room to stretch out, but also to maybe make a little bit more noise.
I was just about to say the exact same thing.
Yes.
That opportunity to create noise without it being
Yeah.
overbearing, because in a classroom, we need it to be quieter because everyone's got
Yeah.
different sensory needs. But outside, it's not as much. It's not as much in your face.
Yeah, it's incredible. And then what you find is the children that are struggling in the indoor classroom, that they might be bouncing off the walls, you take those kids outside and they're the leaders. And I've had parents come to me and, oh, they're really struggling in class. And I'm like, what? They're a leader here. So they become the leaders and where everybody's following them. So to actually give those particular children that opportunity to lead is going to transform their whole journey of learning.
Yeah, I could imagine it's going to make such a huge impact. And we're always saying that kids, they don't remember what you teach them, but they remember how you made them feel. And
Yes.
that's the same sort of thing. They would acknowledge and remember that you saw their potential. Going outside is where they got to be that leader, where they got to really show their true selves, which is amazing. I think it's important to give all of our students opportunities like that.
Yeah. When you go outside, wouldn't it be wonderful once you got there that you would have these incredible invitations for learning? It's transforming your environment into an environment that has wonder and inquiry and curiosity. I call my program the Secret Gardens Outdoor Classroom because around every corner there's something a little bit secret and surprising. And that's where the wonder and beauty of children, they take us there as adults. Maybe that's why we're all educators, because we still want to have that wonder and inquiry and curiosity.
Yeah, and that chance of discovery, because how fun
Yeah.
is that, even as an adult, to discover something? Can you give us some examples of your favorite outdoor activities or some of these invitations for learning that you
Oh,
set up?
absolutely. And I can pull from each of our teaching gardens. One of our favorite things that we do in the gardens that feed is we plant peas. So the minute that the gardens are available to plant, the kids are planting their peas. We create a square foot garden. So each child gets a square foot and they put their name in there and they're really proud. And just the mathematical elements of that, how far deep do you go down? So creating these gardens that feed. In the Gardens for Art and Beauty, another thing that we love to do is to create art. I love just the simplicity of putting a shower curtain on a rope, and that's our easel. And so just being, we were out there today and it was raining, and kids were like, I want to paint. So we were painting in the rain. You just never quite know where things are going to go. But I think one of our most popular spaces is our fishing bridge, which is, I told you earlier. But again, it's the children and their joy and their happiness and being in an outdoor space and playfully. It's hard to pick one.
I know. I guess it's like saying to me, tell me your favorite maths activity. I'm like, oh my gosh, I could do it all day long. What about in urban schools? So let's think schools in the city, they've got small playgrounds. I know a lot of schools here in Sydney, if they're in the city, they might just have a lot of concrete and
Yeah.
it's a small playground. How would you incorporate it in a school like that?
I would get I could do the same thing in terms of looking at the space, even if it's completely a driveway, it's cement.
Yep.
I would begin with gardens that feed. I would get big pots, those big barrels that you can get, and grow food in that. Put three together. And you could do the same thing with growing tulips or bulbs, or we grew garlic. So, all very simple things that you can grow with kids and put them in a big barrel and put them in a sunny spot on that cinder block area, wherever they are. In terms of, I would add a mud kitchen because that's the most sensorial, that's the most popular invitation because it provides the most sensorial experience for children. And you don't need a lot. You just need maybe a little platform of some sort, which you can make, and old pots and pans that can be donated by parents or go to a secondhand store, and maybe a little bit of dirt. I get a lot of conversations like, oh, I don't want to get too muddy. But just even dirt, and you could do a gallon jug if you want to add the water. But simple is the key, and you don't need a lot of space. So thinking about just those little areas and just simple things, even if a school is on a very low budget, getting donations and finding things like old pots and pans and measuring. I like to go to, we have I don't know, in Australia, but we have a dollar store here.
Yep.
And to
We've got
get
similar.
to get measuring spoons and measuring cups, so things that are actually going in the kitchen where kids can practice measuring. And so all of that, and you can change those areas into flower shops or and all different things, just like we do on our indoor classrooms. So whatever can be indoors can be outdoors, but those small little spaces can be transformed into invitations for learning with these little teaching gardens.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. I was thinking as you were talking that you could even just get an old desk.
Yeah.
Schools have old desks or desks that, not perfect, that they don't use. Just pull one of those out of storage and that could be your bench space. And then you're just
Absolutely.
adding the other things. And parents are often really good at donating bits and pieces too. So you could always do a call out for that. On the dirt side of things, one of my children went to this preschool that was like, I was actually talking about on the weekend and I was describing it as really rogue because they did lots of outdoor play and they just let the kids just run wild and it was just fabulous. The kids had their best time and they were exploring every day. And my youngest child, she would come home and honestly, she was covered in mud, paint, everything, but she just had an absolute ball. And we wear school uniforms here in Australia. Like every school wears a school uniform. I'm a big believer in school uniforms. It's okay for them to get dirty and ruined. And I know as a parent that can be frustrating, but go and grab secondhand uniforms.
Yeah.
And if you know the particular days that they're playing with the mud kitchen and just be okay with the uniforms, that clothing that they're going to be learning and maybe getting a bit messy in.
Yeah. And it's actually, research is showing that the more children play in dirt, that it completely shifts their immune system. It's making them stronger. So it may be a headache too. And we have rain suits and all sorts of gear that enables children just to get completely muddy. And then you just take the little rain suit off and then they come out and they're completely dry and wonderful. But it's truly mud and dirt, and I want to stress, is a wonderful addition to an outdoor classroom because, and imagine all the memories that even your children are having and just the laughter
Yes.
and the joy. That's what we're trying. And as opposed to the percentage of children that are sitting in front of a screen. So it's that laughter and joy and having those memories, or is it a memory of just being alone sitting in front of a screen? So it's a dire, I feel like we're in this point of a true urgency to get more families and more, just to create a dialogue about this because it's really important for the
Yes.
health of ourselves and for the health of our communities and ourselves and our children.
I couldn't agree more. I think if we look back, years and years ago, kids would come home from school and they'd be playing outside all afternoon.
Yeah.
I remember that's what my childhood was like. We weren't sitting in front of screens, we weren't watching TV, any of that. But now it's so different. So not only are the kids at school and perhaps they're in front of screens or pens and papers and they're in quiet, very controlled environments, but they're coming home from school, either doing activities that they're in controlled environments or maybe at home in front of a screen. It's very different. They're not getting that play like they used to or that
Yeah.
connection with the outdoors.
It's incredible, actually. I have an after school group that comes to the Secret Gardens outdoor classroom. And you know what they love playing? Hide and seek. It's
Oh.
amazing. It's amazing. They have these epic games, but you think they probably can't play that game at school because they have to be in sight. We know where they all are. We all know where the hiding
Yes.
places are. But we think they probably don't get to play that at school, and they probably don't get to play together like this after school in play, as opposed to going to another structured activity. So just
Yeah.
being able to play, and it's incredible to me how epic it is and so simple. And it's really going back to play, children's play outdoors and how they play at different ages and stages.
Yeah. We've touched on this a little bit as we've been talking, but unpredictable weather. So teachers are probably, they might be in their car driving, having a listen or hanging up artwork as they're listening to us have a chat today. What can outdoor classrooms still work in unpredictable weather or in winter? I know some, like perhaps where you are, you have much colder winters than what we have. Alicia and I used to work in Dubai, so we have very hot summers. So can outdoor classrooms still work in environments like that?
Oh, absolutely. I actually teach whole master classes on exploring nature in winter. And even here, run our program goes year round and it gets very cold. There are rules and regulations in terms of how cold it gets, and you can't obviously take children when it's really cold. But today it rained, and I think it's very important for children to experience all different types of weather. And the one thing I'll say about, say, if it's cold, even if it's hot, but if it's whatever the weather is, I find it's critical to have the right gear. And here I live in New England, near Boston, Massachusetts, and in the USA. And it gets cold. We have all four
Yeah.
seasons, and it's really cold. We have snow, we have hail, all sorts of things. And what I have found when parents have the right gear for their kids, they have the right socks, they have the right snow pants, they have the right undergarments. All of that plays such a critical role. And I believe how important it is to start taking kids out in the colder weather at an early age. So they become accustomed to, oh, yeah, this is just the norm. This is just what we do. And actually, we have found through this masterclass that I teach is there's so much to explore in the winter. There's ice, there's what happens in ice. There's all of these wonderful things. What happens to the trees? All the leaves are gone, and you can see all the nests in the trees. Talking about hibernation, where do the animals go during the winter months? So, yes, there's a wonderful, beautiful opportunities to explore nature in winter. And again, the key being the gear. And again, the flip side of that is what if it's really hot and the heat? How can you do an outdoor classroom when it's so hot? And so again, to flip it around and to see it as a positive in terms of what can we do in the summer months that we can't necessarily do in the three other seasons. And you can do so much beautiful water play. And again, you can bring that math in, you can bring that engineering in and make these wonderful water walls. So all of that can just be looking at the season for what the season brings to us, as opposed to, oh, it's a mindset thing. Oh, it's too cold. Oh, it's too hot. We can't do this and we can't do that. So that's all mindset. And so when you get to the point of, huh, what does winter bring? We got some ice play, and the kids go berserk. They're like, oh, this is so cool. It's slippery. It's this, it's that. So, all of that is a wonderful way to invite the seasons.
Yes. So that, I suppose that's one of the limiting mindsets teachers would have or like misconceptions about outdoor play. the weather. And then another one would probably be the limited space. So if you're in an urban school like we were talking before, are there any other misconceptions outdoor classrooms have that you want to debunk right here and right now?
Right here, right now.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. I have met teachers that believe because I don't know enough about the outdoor environment, I don't know the names of the plants. I don't know. I can make a whole list, but you do not need to be an outdoor expert to take kids outdoors. You do not need to be a master gardener and know how to plant every single plant to grow food with kids. So I'm debunking that right now. All you need to take kids outdoors is the ability to open the door and have an incredible mindset of curiosity, wonder, and inquiry. You do
That's
not need to be
beautiful.
an expert.
So you don't
Just
need to be an expert. I suppose the other misconception would be it's harder to sort of have that control or the management piece when you're outside. So do you have any words of wisdom there?
Absolutely. I get that question a lot. That's one of the reasons why teachers don't want it because, oh, it's going to be so crazy. So what I would recommend is to take baby steps, is to start by going outside, taking your class out, read a story. And if that's all you can handle at that point, then read a story, then go back in. And maybe the next time you go outside, make a goal. I'm going to read a story and maybe I'll do an activity. And maybe that's where you're at. And so that's what we talk about in the 5 phases of teaching outdoors is what phase of teaching and learning are educators in? Are they in the infrastructure? Are they in just the process of getting outdoors? Are they into the teaching and learning outdoors? Are they into dealing with the weather? Or are they at the point that they want to make this whole experience sustainable? So those are the 5 phases that we talk about at outdoor classrooms.
Yeah. I think it's like anything in education when we're learning new things, you don't need to go all in at the very beginning,
Yeah.
just small steps and just implementing one thing at a time to find what works for you, what works for your students, how you can go about it. And I suppose classroom management, if I'm putting that hat on, it's really just about setting those expectations. So in the classroom, you know how to set the expectations for what you want in that classroom. So it's just about adjusting those for an outdoor space and making sure your students are well aware of what those expectations are and what they need to do and how they need to behave in order to get more outdoor time, because the easier it
Right.
is for you, the more that they're going to get. And it's going to be one of those things that you can do more and more of and add more and more of it on if everyone's on the
Yeah.
same page.
And it's about, again, like what you said in terms of where you are at as an educator, but also creating those routines and systems to make sure that it's easy. Once it becomes hard and difficult, you don't really want to do it anymore. So it's
Yes.
really important to sort of walk it through in your mind. Okay, so we're going to do this, step 1, step 2, step 3, and that's what we're going to do this time. And then when you're done with that experience, come back and say, okay, what worked? What didn't work? And then, like you said, this is what we do as educators when we're trying something new. But it is sometimes hard to try something new and stretch it a little bit. But I will promise you that, and anybody that's listening, that when you start taking your kids outdoors on a regular basis, you will start seeing their behavior improve. Because, like we said in the very beginning, it's going to start they're going to be able to start self-regulating because the environment and nature is going to help them take the stress away. It's going to help calm them. So it's in your best interest to start thinking about and taking your kids outdoors.
That's like a powerful little call to action in a sneaky way, Victoria. But I can see why, because we're saying that it's helping with their regulation, it's helping with their well-being, it's helping us as teachers too. There's nothing but positive there. And if it's a disaster, if you run one of these lessons, you go outside and it just turns into an absolute disaster. And don't worry, I've been there. I'm sure you have been there too, Victoria. It's okay to be like, okay, that wasn't great. Let's try again. Let's try something different.
Yeah. Troubleshoot until you find your niche. And
Yeah.
everybody has a different outdoor space and everybody has a different teaching style and everybody has a different group of kids. So it's a matter of playing trial and error. And that's just like anything that's new until you hit yeah. And then something will happen and then you'll have to switch it up again. So that's
Yes.
the beauty.
The teaching cycle.
That's right. When you figure it out, you'll have to switch it up again.
Yeah. can you tell us a moment that you've had in your teaching or a story from your work that has really stuck with you when it comes to outdoor learning and outdoor classrooms?
Yes, my story is actually, I was thinking about this, and my story actually stems from why I started this in the first place. When I was at my children's elementary school, when they were in preschool and kindergarten, we started up a children's garden, an outdoor classroom. And again, my kids were in preschool and kindergarten, and we started this planting and whatnot. We were spending some time in the outdoor space, and I was shocked that there were fifth graders who seemed like giants to me at the time, because I had my little ones, that they had never planted anything in the ground. Yeah, it shocked me. And it was when the wind gets knocked out of you. That's what it felt like. It was just like, it was that shocking. And I thought, oh, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it, but it was the essence of that. There was like it wasn't just one child. It was like a handful of children that had never but getting to fifth grade and not having planted anything in the ground, just shocking. And so that was the birth, was that story that I really started this movement of creating outdoor classrooms and inspiring teachers to do the same and creating the resources and doing the research and whatnot. Yeah, children should not make it to fifth grade and not have that experience of the joy of being outdoors and planting something in the ground.
Yeah, and the amazingness of what you have to show for it once you plant something and it
Oh,
grows. Like it is so exciting.
yeah, it's magic. The whole thing is magic. And that's what I want teachers to really walk away with is once they start getting into that rhythm of taking their children outside, the magic, it's like a domino. Once you start to, it's like a domino and these magical moments will just start blossoming and you'll see your kids grow. You'll see these connections. You'll see all of these wonderful things happening that can never happen in an indoor classroom. And it's just the beauty of inquiry, the beauty, and I call it magic. It's sort of hard to explain, but it's beautiful.
Yeah. So if listeners are thinking, okay, she's convinced me, I want to start doing it, what's one small action that they could take tomorrow to bring a little bit more nature into their lessons?
Yes, I think that they can open the door, and probably even before taking your children outside, is to take yourself outside and to just sit and bring a cup of tea or your favorite drink and just sit and just enjoy. Once you experience that, then you can share that with your children. So, really starting your own practice in terms of spending more time outside, whether you spend it in the morning, walking around the grass with your bare feet, or in the afternoon after a long day. But whatever it is, experience being out in nature. And then once you have that embodied, then start slowly opening up the door or even looking at your outdoor space and say, you know what? I might just make a little mud kitchen or something a little bit different. Or I might go read a story and start bringing my kids outside.
Yeah, reading's
Um,
a really great little first step. And if you teach older kids, get them to grab a book. And
yes.
everyone can just go outside and find a spot that they're comfortable in and read there. We're reading anyway, so why not start with something really simple like that?
Simple. Yeah. But I would start with yourself. I would really start and really, what's my relationship with being in nature? And so you're coming from a very authentic place when you're bringing children, and that will strengthen your why on figuring out why you are taking them out. You're not taking them out because I told you to. You're taking them out for your own reasons. So really coming up with whatever that why is for you. And for me, it was that little girl that had never planted anything in the ground. That's when I just go back to that moment, which is years and years ago. But it's yeah, there are more kids out there that need to be outdoors.
Yeah, I'm sure that there's kids sitting in every classroom that haven't experienced planting things in the ground or that thrill of getting dirty with mud
Yeah,
play.
yeah. And it's so good for them. It's so good for them.
Yeah, which is amazing. Okay, we're going to switch gears slightly because we're starting a new little tradition on the podcast where previous guests have left a question for you to answer. So this is not about outdoor classrooms.
Okay,
Are you ready for it?
I am ready.
The question that's been left for you is, what is the most admirable quality a teacher can have, in your opinion?
I feel like I already said this.
That's
I
okay.
feel that the three words inquire, if teachers have really embody in their teaching practice, both indoors and outdoors, the essence of inquiry, wonder, and curiosity. I feel like those qualities make fantastic teachers because I feel like they don't necessarily have all the answers, or they've created these incredible systems in their classrooms that enable children to be themselves and to present themselves authentically, and that the teacher has been able to design a curriculum or the systems in their classroom to do that. But I believe the three words that come to mind with all the teachers that I can think of, it's that inquiry, wonder, and curiosity.
Inquiry, wonder, and curiosity. I love that.
Yes.
We'll get your question after when we're off air, and I'm going to ask
Okay.
that to our further guests. So thank you so much. Before we go, though, you need to tell us, where can listeners go to learn more about your work, Victoria, and more about outdoor classrooms?
Oh, thank you for asking. They can go to my website where there's lots and lots happening there, www.outdoor-classrooms.com. And we have a newsletter that goes out weekly, so they can subscribe to that. I also have a podcast, Outdoor Classrooms Podcast. And also you can find me on Instagram and Facebook.
Amazing. We'll make sure that we link all of those things up in the show notes. So if you want to go and listen to Victoria's podcast, if this is an area that you think I need to learn more, I want to dive deeper, the podcast is a perfect place to go. I've listened to a couple of episodes, and it's a really great place just to learn about different ways you can go about it. And you are so knowledgeable in this area. So thank you so much for coming on. I feel really grateful that you've spent this time with us and our listeners today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
I think Victoria is right. Curiosity, wonder, and inquiry are really important values that teachers need to have to be great teachers. We're often saying that teachers are lifelong learners, but it's true. You know, we never have a classroom or a group of students that is exactly the same. You could be teaching grade 2 for 20 years and it's never going to be an exact repeat of itself. So they're really fantastic qualities to have. As we were chatting through this episode, I was thinking about one of the times I went to visit my sister, and it was raining, and we have 5 kids between us, and we were thinking, what are we going to do with the kids? And we ended up getting some sticky tape and putting it around their wrists, but upside down, like backwards. So the sticky part was facing out. And we just went for a walk around the block in the rain, and the kids just collected petals and leaves and just little treasures that they found along the way, and they stuck them to their sticky tape bracelet. And I mean, we have kids ranging from 2 years old up until 8 years old, and every child loved it. And I was just thinking, as Victoria was talking, that is the simplicity of just bringing nature in. That's like a really simple idea. And you could do rainbow colors, or you could do a certain number of collection of things, or maybe that is an artwork that they're creating on their bracelet. But it's just a way of connecting with nature. I hope that today's episode gave you a little bit of inspiration. I know that when my kids get home this afternoon from school, we are going outdoors. In fact, we're going to the beach. We always go to the beach on a Tuesday afternoon, but we're going to be spending more time outdoors because Victoria has me absolutely convinced about the positivity of it. Thank you, Victoria, for coming on and sharing everything with us. You probably heard my smiles through the microphone. I hope you did, because I thoroughly enjoyed this interview. Until next time, there are rainbows ahead, my friend, and together we're unstoppable.